The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room Ambassador had ever seen. It stretched upward for nearly a mile, with seats carved into the walls like a massive stadium. 12 different species sat in their designated sections, each one stranger than the last. Some had tentacles, others had wings. A few looked like walking crystals that hummed when they spoke. Stood alone on the central platform. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. Behind her, a hologram of Earth rotated slowly, showing its blue oceans and green continents. She had practiced her speech 100 times. Humanity was asking to join the Galactic Council after 50 years of peaceful exploration. This was supposed to be a simple ceremony. It was not simple. The delegation sat in the largest section of the hall. They were massive creatures, each one standing 9 feet tall with 6 powerful limbs and scales the color of dried blood. Their eyes were yellow and cold, like the eyes of ancient predators. For 400 years, the Dominion had controlled galactic military affairs. No species had ever defeated them in open war. High Commander Al rose from his seat. He was the largest in the chamber, covered in battle scars that he wore like medals. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the hall like thunder. "The Council recognizes the Dominion," said the automated translator system. Al pointed one clawed finger at, "We object to this petition. Humans are not worthy of a seat among us." The hall fell silent, kept her expression neutral though her heart beat faster. "On what grounds does the Dominion object?" asked the representative, an ancient being that looked like a tree made of silver metal. "On the grounds of biological weakness," Al said. He began walking down toward the central platform, each step shaking the floor. "Look at this creature. Soft skin that tears at the slightest touch. No natural armor, no claws, no venom, reflexes slower than a newborn child." He stopped just a few feet from. He was so tall that she had to crane her neck to meet his eyes. She did not step back. "Humans live for less than a century," Al continued, addressing the council. "They cannot survive in vacuum. They cannot survive extreme heat or cold. They require constant food and water and sleep. Their bodies break easily and heal slowly." He leaned down, bringing his face close to us. "You are prey animals, herd creatures. You have no place among the strong." Said nothing, she waited. Al straightened and spread his arms wide. "The Dominion will demonstrate this truth. The human colony called New Helsinki sits on our border. Within one galactic cycle, we will annex this world. The humans there will serve us or die, and the galaxy will see what happens when prey forgets its place." Murmurs spread through the council chamber. Some species looked uncomfortable, others seemed amused. None of them spoke against understood why. The Dominion had never lost a war. Standing against them meant destruction. The representative leaned forward. "Ambassador, do you wish to withdraw your petition in light of this development?" Looked at Al, then she looked at the council, then she smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "No," she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. "Earth's petition stands." Al laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Then your colony will burn and your people will learn their place." "Perhaps," said, "but I have a question for the High Commander if the Council permits." The gestured for her to continue. Turned to face Al directly. "You have studied human biology, that is clear, but I wonder, have you studied human history?" Al's yellow eyes narrowed. "Why would I study the history of prey?" "Because," said, "if you had, you would know something important about my species." She paused. The entire council was watching now. "For 200,000 years, humans have lived on Earth, and for 200,000 years we have been surrounded by creatures larger than us, faster than us, stronger than us. Lions, bears, wolves, elephants, sharks. We had no armor, no claws, no venom. By every measure you have listed, we should have been prey." She took one step closer to Al. He did not step back, but something flickered in his eyes. "We ate them all," said. Every predator that hunted us, we hunted back. Every creature that threatened our children, we turned into food and clothing and trophies. We did not survive by being stronger. We survived by being more stubborn than anything else that has ever lived. She turned to address the full council. You see soft skin and slow reflexes. You see short lives and fragile bodies. But you are missing something important. You are missing what made us the dominant species on a planet full of things that could kill us. And what is that? Al growled. Looked at him. We do not give up, ever. We do not surrender. We do not accept defeat. You can kill us, but you cannot make us stop fighting. Our ancestors walked across frozen continents. They crossed oceans in wooden boats. They survived ice ages and plagues and famines, not because they were strong, because they refused to die. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small data chip. She held it up for the council to see. This contains the complete military history of humanity. I offer it to any species that wishes to understand what they would face in a war against Earth. It includes records of our world wars, in which hundreds of millions of humans killed each other over ideas. It includes records of sieges that lasted for years, where humans ate rats and leather, and each other rather than surrender. It includes records of soldiers who crawled through mud and fire and poison gas, who lost arms and legs and eyes, and kept fighting. She set the chip on the platform. High Commander Al, you are welcome to attack New Helsinki. The Dominion is welcome to test itself against humanity, but I suggest you study this information first, because you are making a mistake that many have made before you. What mistake is that? Al demanded. Turned and began walking back toward the exit. She stopped at the edge of the platform and looked over her shoulder. You are confusing kindness with weakness. Humans are kind because we choose to be. We are peaceful because we have seen enough war to hate it, but if you force us to fight. She smiled again, that cold, dangerous smile. You should have studied our history more carefully. She walked out of the chamber. The great doors closed behind her with a sound like thunder. In the silence that followed, Al stood very still. Then he laughed and returned to his seat. Brave words from a prey animal, he said. We will see how brave they are when our ships darken their skis. The council session ended. Representatives returned to their home worlds. Messages were sent across the galaxy. And far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, Admiral Wei watched the recording of the council session from his office in Geneva. When delivered her final warning, he smiled. Then he picked up his communicator and spoke 2 words that would change the galaxy forever. Begin mobilization. Across Earth, lights began turning on in military bases that had been quiet for decades. Soldiers who had retired to farms and factories received messages on old communicators they had never thrown away. Ships that had been mothballed in orbital stations began powering up their engines. The thought they were going to teach humanity a lesson. They had no idea what was coming. The High Command expected humanity to spend weeks debating what to do. That was how civilized species behaved. They held meetings. They discussed options. They negotiated. They delayed. 72 hours after the council session, the intelligence officer Al stared at his screens in growing confusion. Something was very wrong. This cannot be correct, he said to his assistant. Run the numbers again. His assistant ran the numbers again. They were correct. In 3 days, Earth had mobilized 4 million soldiers, not recruited, not trained, mobilized. These soldiers already existed. They had been waiting, scattered across human space, living ordinary lives. Farmers, teachers, factory workers, shopkeepers. But they had kept their uniforms. They had kept their weapons. They had kept themselves ready. And when the call came, they answered. Colonel Stone received his orders while feeding chickens on his small farm in Montana. He was 53 years old, with gray hair and a face like weathered leather. His left hand was made of metal, a replacement for the one he had lost on Mars during the insurgency. He had 3 medals for bravery and 2 scars on his chest where bullets had failed to kill him. He read the message twice. Then he walked inside, kissed his wife goodbye, and told her he would be home when it was over. "How long?" she asked. "However long it takes," he said. She nodded. She had been married to a soldier for 30 years. She knew what that meant. Within 6 hours, Stone was at the military base in Colorado. Within 12 hours, he was aboard a transport ship heading for the staging area near Jupiter. Within 24 hours, he was standing in front of 10,000 soldiers who looked just like him. They were not young. They were not fresh. Many of them had gray in their hair and scars on their bodies. Some were missing fingers or eyes or limbs. All of them had the same look in their eyes, the look of people who had seen terrible things and survived. "Most of you know me," Stone said. His voice was rough from years of shouting orders over gunfire. "We served together on Mars, on Titan, on the Belt stations. We have bled together. We have buried friends together. We thought we were done." He paused and looked across the assembled soldiers. "We were wrong. There is a species out there called they are bigger than us, stronger than us, faster than us. They have decided that humans are prey animals, and they are coming to prove it by destroying one of our colonies." Nobody spoke, nobody moved. 50,000 civilians live on New Helsinki, Stone continued. Families, children, people who have never held a weapon in their lives. They think they can burn that colony and we will do nothing. They think we are weak. He smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Let's show them what weak looks like." The soldiers did not cheer. They did not shout. They simply began preparing for war with the quiet efficiency of people who had done this many times before. Far away, in the Dominion, Intelligence Officer Al was still trying to understand what he was seeing. Human military doctrine made no sense to him. They enhanced their soldiers with genetic modifications and cybernetic implants. They selected only the strongest and fastest to serve in their armies. Weak soldiers were removed. Humans did not do this. Human soldiers were ordinary people. They had no genetic enhancements. Most of them had no cybernetic implants beyond basic medical devices. They were soft and slow and fragile. By standards, they were worthless as warriors. But they did not stop. Al found records of human soldiers who had been shot 6 times and kept fighting. He found records of soldiers who had lost limbs and refused to leave the battlefield. He found records of soldiers who had been captured, tortured, and escaped to fight again. He found a concept that did not exist in the language. The humans called it PTSD, a type of mental damage caused by too much combat. Soldiers did not develop this condition because soldiers did not survive enough battles to accumulate that much trauma. Human soldiers did. There were humans who had fought in 5 wars, 10 wars, soldiers who had been fighting since they were 18 years old and were still fighting at 60. They were broken in ways that Al could not understand, and yet they kept going. He included this information in his report to High Command. The response was dismissive. "Psychological damage does not make prey into predators," his commander wrote back. "Continue standard preparations." Al was not so sure. On Earth, something else was happening that confused the galactic observers. They had sent a diplomatic team to document humanity's response to the threat. They expected to find panic, fear, perhaps civil unrest as humans fought over limited resources. Instead, they found something they had never seen before. Humans were volunteering. Not just soldiers, everyone. Factories that made farming equipment were now making weapons. Engineers who designed toys were now designing military drones. Doctors were signing up for field hospital duty. Teachers were organizing evacuation procedures for colonies that might be attacked. The observer Aaron watched a line of humans waiting to donate blood at a medical center. The line stretched around the building and down the street. Some of them had been waiting for hours. "Why are you doing this?" Aaron asked one woman in line. "You are not soldiers, this is not your fight." The woman looked at him with genuine confusion. "Of course it's my fight. They're attacking our people." "But you do not know anyone on New Helsinki. These are strangers." "They're human," the woman said, as if this explained everything. "That makes them family." Aaron did not understand. In his experience, species looked after their own tribes, their own nations, their own genetic lines. The idea that all members of a species would unite against an external threat was theoretically possible but practically unheard of. He transmitted a report to the home world. "The humans are not afraid," he wrote. "I have observed their faces and their behavior carefully. They should be terrified. They are facing the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Instead, they are angry. They are not panicking. They are preparing. I do not fully understand what I am seeing, but I believe they have made a serious miscalculation." Back on the transport ship, Colonel Stone sat in his quarters and looked at a photograph. It showed a young woman with red hair and a bright smile. His daughter, killed 15 years ago in a pirate attack on a transport ship. He had spent 2 years hunting down every pirate responsible. He had not stopped until every single one of them was dead. That was what humans did. They did not forgive, they did not forget, they did not stop. The thought they were going to fight a war against a weak species. They were wrong. They were going to fight a war against a species that had been practicing war for 10,000 years. A species that had turned the act of killing into an art form. A species that had weapons capable of destroying entire planets and the willingness to use them. The wolves of Earth were waking up, and they were hungry. As the fleet gathered near Jupiter, Stone received a message from Admiral Way. It contained only 4 words. "Make them remember us." Stone smiled and began planning the defense of New Helsinki. The wanted, a demonstration of human weakness. They were about to get a demonstration of something very different. New Helsinki was a frozen world on the edge of human space. Its surface was covered in ice and snow, with temperatures that dropped to 60 degrees below zero at night. The colony existed because of the valuable minerals buried beneath the ice. 50,000 people called it home. When the fleet arrived, 200 warships darkened the sky like a swarm of metal insects. They expected to find a terrified population begging for mercy. Instead, they found an empty city. The civilians had been evacuated to underground bunkers carved deep into the frozen rock. The streets were silent. The buildings were dark, but scattered across the frozen landscape, hidden in snowdrifts and ice caves and abandoned mining tunnels, 8,000 human soldiers waited. Colonel Stone watched the landing ships descend through the clouds. His position was a reinforced bunker on a ridge overlooking the main colony. Around him, his soldiers checked their weapons one final time. "Remember your training," Stone said over the communication channel. "We are not going to win this fight with strength. We are going to win it with patience and stubbornness. Make them pay for every inch of ground. Make them bleed for every building. Make them hate this frozen rock so much they never want to see snow again." The ground forces deployed with military precision. 10,000 warriors in heavy armor, each one carrying weapons that could punch through concrete. Their commander, war leader Al, surveyed the silent colony with contempt. "The prey has hidden underground," he said to his officers. "Dig them out. This will be over within hours." He was wrong. The first patrol entered the colony through the main gate. They moved in formation, weapons ready, scanning for targets. The streets were empty. The buildings were dark. Everything was silent except for the howling wind. Then the ground exploded. Hidden charges detonated beneath the patrol, killing 6 warriors instantly. Before the survivors could react, gunfire erupted from a dozen different positions. Human soldiers appeared in windows and doorways, fired precisely aimed shots, and vanished before they could return fire. 3 more warriors fell. The rest scrambled for cover. "Contact," the patrol leader shouted into his communicator. "We are under attack." This scene repeated across the entire colony. Every street was a trap. Every building was a fortress. Every shadow could hide a human with a rifle. They were stronger and faster, but they were fighting in an environment that seemed designed to kill them. The cold was the first enemy. Soldiers were adapted for warm climates. Their heating units struggled against the brutal temperatures of New Helsinki. Within hours, warriors began suffering from frostbite and equipment failures. The humans did not seem to notice the cold. They moved through the blizzards like ghosts, wearing white camouflage that made them invisible against the snow. They attacked at night when the temperature dropped even further. They set fires to draw forces into ambushes, then vanished into the storm. War leader Al lost 200 warriors in the first day of fighting. He called for reinforcements. The second day was worse. Human soldiers had retreated into the mining tunnels beneath the colony. The tunnels were narrow, with low ceilings that forced the massive to crouch and crawl. Every intersection could hide an explosive. Every corner could hide a soldier with a shotgun. The advantages in strength and speed meant nothing in those tunnels. A 9-foot warrior with lightning reflexes was useless when he could barely fit through a doorway. Human soldiers appeared, fired, and disappeared into passages too small to follow. By the third day, Al had lost 500 warriors. He requested permission to use orbital bombardment to destroy the tunnel network. High Commander Al, the request. "This is supposed to be a demonstration of superiority," he transmitted from his command ship. "Destroying the colony from orbit proves nothing. Continue the ground assault." Al obeyed, but he was beginning to understand something terrible. The humans were not trying to win. They were trying to make the victory cost more than they were willing to pay. On the 7th day, something happened that changed everything. A squad of 12 human soldiers was cut off during a counterattack. They retreated to a small mining station on the outskirts of the colony. 300 warriors surrounded the building. The squad leader was Sergeant. She was 32 years old, with short dark hair and eyes the color of ice. She had been fighting since she was 19. She had survived 4 wars and more wounds than she could count. She looked at her soldiers. Most of them were injured. They had enough ammunition for maybe 2 hours of fighting. There was no possibility of rescue. "Command, this is Echo Squad," she transmitted. "We are surrounded. Request instructions." The response came from Colonel Stone himself. "What is your status?" 11 soldiers still combat effective. Estimate 300 enemy. We can hold for a few hours, but we are not getting out of this. There was a long pause. Then Stone's voice returned, heavy with emotion. "Understood, Sergeant. You have permission to withdraw if you can find a way out." Looked around the small building. There was no way out. They all knew it. "Negative on withdrawal," she said. "But Colonel, we have something the enemy wants." "What's that?" "Us. Every minute they spend trying to take this position is a minute they are not attacking the main defensive line. Request permission to hold as long as possible." Another pause. "Permission granted. Make it count." "Yes, sir." Echo Squad out. Looked at her soldiers. They looked back at her. Nobody spoke, but they all understood. "All right," said. "Let's give these lizards a fight they will never forget." They fought for 19 hours. 19 hours of constant combat. 19 hours of gunfire and explosions and screaming. They attacked in waves, and each wave left bodies on the frozen ground. Human soldiers fired until their weapons overheated, then picked up weapons from fallen comrades and kept firing. One by one, the humans fell. Johnson was killed covering a window, died holding a doorway, went down defending the ammunition supply. By the 18th hour, only was left. She was wounded in 3 places, bleeding through her bandages, barely able to stand, but she kept fighting. The finally breached the building at hour 19. They found 11 human bodies surrounded by nearly 100 dead, and they found, sitting against a wall, holding a device in her bloody hand. The commander recognized the device. It was a fusion charge, powerful enough to destroy the entire building and everything within 100 meters. "Surrender," the commander said. "You have fought well. There is no shame in yielding to a superior force." Looked up at him. She was so tired she could barely keep her eyes open, but she smiled. "You still don't understand us," she said. "Humans don't surrender. We just stop fighting when we're dead." She pressed the button. The explosion lit up the night sky. War leader Al watched from a distance. He had seen warriors die before. He had seen bravery and sacrifice, but he had never seen anything like this. He transmitted a message to High Commander Al. "The humans are not surrendering. They are not retreating. They are making us kill every single one of them. At our current casualty rate, we will lose half our ground force before we control the colony." Al's response was cold. "Then accept those losses. This demonstration will continue." Al acknowledged the order, but as he watched the smoke rise from where Echo Squad had made its last stand, he felt something he had never felt before in 400 years of war. He felt doubt. The human relief fleet arrived on the 14th day of the siege. 72 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their weapons already charging. Admiral Way stood on the bridge of the carrier Thermopylae. He was 61 years old, a veteran of more space battles than he could remember. His hair was white and his face was lined with age, but his eyes were sharp and cold. "All ships, this is Admiral," he transmitted. "We are outnumbered nearly 3-1. Our ships are smaller. Our weapons are weaker. They have never lost a space battle in 400 years. He paused and looked at the tactical display showing the massive fleet. "None of that matters. Down on that planet, 8,000 of our brothers and sisters have been fighting for 2 weeks. They have held the line against impossible odds. They have died rather than surrender. They have earned our respect and our help." He leaned forward. "Today we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. We do not come here expecting to live. We come here expecting to win. Attack pattern Delta. All ships engage." The battle began. Human ships were smaller and faster than vessels. They darted between the massive enemy warships like wolves attacking elephants, firing their weapons and retreating before they could respond. When a human ship was damaged, it did not retreat to safety. It accelerated toward the nearest enemy vessel and kept fighting until it was destroyed. High Commander Al watched from his command ship, the Dominance, as human vessels threw themselves against his fleet. He had never seen tactics like this. Human captains made decisions instantly, without waiting for orders. They coordinated their attacks with a precision that seemed almost telepathic. "They fight like a single organism," his tactical officer reported. "Each ship seems to know exactly what the others will do." "That is because they train together," Al said. "They live together, they die together. It is their only advantage." But it was proving to be a significant advantage. 3 hours into the battle, they had destroyed 20 human ships, but they had lost 40 of their own. The smaller, faster human vessels were simply harder to hit, and when they did strike, they struck vital systems with terrifying accuracy. Admiral ordered the next phase of the attack. "Marine assault teams launch. Target is the enemy command ship. Take it intact if possible. Destroy it if necessary." 12 assault shuttles broke away from the carrier and raced toward the Dominance. Point defense systems destroyed 8 of them before they reached the hull. 4 made it through. Colonel Stone was on the first shuttle. He had refused to stay behind on New Helsinki. His soldiers had held for 2 weeks. Now it was his turn to finish this. The shuttle crashed through the hull of the Dominance and deployed its cargo of 50 human Marines. Stone was the first one out. his rifle already firing. The corridors of the command ship were built for 9-foot warriors. Human soldiers moved through them like ghosts, using the massive doorways and high ceilings to their advantage. They climbed walls. They dropped from ceilings. They appeared from angles the never expected. Warriors were faster and stronger, but they were trained to fight in formation, in open spaces, against enemies who followed predictable patterns. Human Marines did not follow patterns. They did whatever worked. Stone led his team toward the bridge. They fought through 6 decks of heavy resistance, losing soldiers at every intersection. But they did not stop. When they finally breached the bridge doors, there were only 12 Marines left, and waiting for them was High Commander Al himself. The commander stood in the center of his bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his guards. He had killed the first wave of humans himself. His ceremonial blade was stained with red blood. "So," Al said, looking at Stone, "the prey has come to face me directly. I am impressed." Stone raised his rifle. "Surrender, your fleet is losing. Your ground forces are pinned down. This is over." Al laughed. It was a cold, harsh sound. A high commander does not surrender to prey. He moved faster than Stone thought possible, crossing the distance between them in a heartbeat. His blade slashed down, and Stone barely managed to block with his rifle. The weapon shattered in his hands. Al struck again. His claws raked across Stone's chest, tearing through armor and flesh. Stone fell back, bleeding heavily. "You see," Al said, advancing slowly, "this is the difference between us. I am faster, stronger, more experienced. You cannot defeat me." Stone pushed himself to his feet. His left arm hung useless at his side, broken in 3 places. Blood poured from the wounds on his chest. Any normal person would have collapsed. Stone was not normal. "You want to know something funny?" Stone said, his voice rough with pain. "Everything you just said is true. You are faster, stronger, better in every way." He pulled a knife from his boot with his remaining good hand. "But you are missing one thing." Al circled slowly. "And what is that?" "Humans have been fighting things stronger than us since we were apes throwing rocks at lions. You are just the latest." Stone attacked. It was not a graceful attack. It was not a skilled attack. It was the attack of a wounded animal that refused to die. Al blocked the first strike easily, and the second, and the third. He cut Stone again and again, opening new wounds with every exchange. But Stone kept coming. He kept fighting. He kept refusing to fall. "Why won't you die?" Al demanded, genuine confusion in his voice. "Because," Stone gasped, "my soldiers are still fighting down there, and I will not stop until they are safe." He lunged forward one more time. Al caught his arm and prepared to deliver a killing blow. Then the rest of Stone's Marines arrived. 12 rifles fired at once. Al staggered back, his armor cracking under the barrage. He tried to fight, but there were too many coming from too many angles. He fell to one knee. Stone limped forward. He stood over the wounded commander, knife in hand. "Yield," Stone said. "Order your forces to stand down." Al looked up at him. For the first time in 400 years there was fear in his eyes, not fear of death, fear of something he did not understand. "What are you?" Al whispered. Stone thought about all the soldiers who had died on New Helsinki. He thought about and her squad, fighting for 19 hours rather than surrender. He thought about every human who had ever refused to quit when quitting was the logical choice. "We are human," Stone said, "and we do not stop." Al lowered his head. "I yield." The battle was over. The word spread across both fleets. The High Commander had surrendered. It was the first time in 400 years that a leader had yielded to any enemy. On the surface of New Helsinki, the remaining ground forces received the order to cease fire. They did so reluctantly, unable to believe what they were hearing. Colonel Stone collapsed against a wall, finally allowing the medics to treat his wounds. He had lost too much blood. His body was broken in a dozen ways, but he was smiling. They had won. Not because they were stronger, not because they were faster, not because they had better weapons or better ships. They had won because they refused to lose. And the galaxy would never forget it. 3 months after the Battle of New Helsinki, the Galactic Council gathered once again on Axis Prime. The Great Chamber was more crowded than it had ever been. Every species, every nation, every faction with any claim to galactic influence had sent representatives. They had come to see history. Ambassador stood on the central platform just as she had 3 months before, but everything else was different. The section was nearly empty. High Commander Al was not present. He remained a prisoner of war on a human ship, awaiting trial for crimes against civilian populations. The Dominion had lost 60% of its invasion fleet. Their ground forces had been shattered. For the first time in 4 centuries, they had been defeated in open war. And everyone wanted to know how. The Council recognizes the human delegation, announced the representative. Stepped forward. Behind her, holographic displays activated, showing images and documents and records. 3 months ago, I stood in this chamber and was told that humanity was weak. We were called prey. We were told that our soft skin and slow reflexes made us unworthy of a place among the strong. She paused and looked around the chamber. Today, I am here to explain why that assessment was wrong, not to boast, not to threaten, but because I believe this council deserves to understand what it is dealing with. The holographic display changed to show images of ancient Earth, cave paintings, prehistoric humans hunting massive animals with spears. Humans evolved on a planet full of predators. We had no armor, no claws, no venom. Every creature that saw us thought we were easy prey. They were wrong. The display showed images of primitive humans working together to bring down creatures many times their size. We survived by cooperating, by planning, by refusing to give up. We developed a hunting technique that no other species in the known galaxy has ever used. It is called persistence hunting. She looked at the council members, making sure they understood. We did not chase our prey to catch it. We chased our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We would follow an animal for hours, sometimes days, walking steadily, never stopping until the creature simply could not run anymore. The display showed a timeline of human history, wars and empires rising and falling. This trait, this absolute refusal to stop, defined everything we became. When the ice ages came, we walked to warmer lands. When oceans blocked our path, we built boats and crossed them. When diseases killed millions of us, the survivors rebuilt. We have been knocked down 1,000 times and we have gotten up 1,001. The display now showed scenes from human wars, soldiers fighting in trenches, cities burning, nuclear explosions. We also turned this persistence against ourselves. For 10,000 years, humans have been fighting other humans. We have killed hundreds of millions of our own kind. We have burned cities and poisoned lands and invented weapons capable of destroying our entire planet. She let that sink in. We did not do these things because we are evil. We did them because we are stubborn beyond all reason. When humans believe something is worth fighting for, we fight until we win or we die. There is no middle ground. There is no surrender. The display showed the Battle of New Helsinki, human soldiers fighting in frozen trenches, the last stand of Echo Squad, Colonel Stone facing Al on the bridge of the Dominance. You have now seen what happens when humans fight something other than ourselves. Every soldier at New Helsinki knew they might die. They fought anyway. They did not do this because they wanted to die. They did it because they understood something that did not. She looked directly at the camera that would broadcast her words across the galaxy. Humans protect our own. It does not matter if the person in danger is a friend or a stranger. It does not matter if they live next door or on the other side of the galaxy. If they are human, they are family, and humans will do anything to protect family. She paused. This is my message to the Galactic Council and to every species watching this broadcast. Humanity comes in peace. We genuinely want to be good neighbors. We want to trade and explore and learn from the other species of this galaxy. Her voice hardened. But if anyone threatens our people, our colonies, our children, they will face the same thing they faced. Not because we are stronger, not because we are faster, but because we will never, ever stop. She pulled out the same data chip she had offered 3 months before. This chip contains the complete history of human warfare. I offered it before and it was ignored. I offer it again now. Study it. Learn from it. Understand what you would face if you chose to fight us. She set the chip on the platform. You will find records of sieges that lasted years, where humans starved rather than surrender. You will find records of resistance movements that fought for generations against occupying forces. You will find records of soldiers who walked through fire and poison and nuclear radiation because giving up was simply not an option. The chamber was completely silent. They looked at our soft bodies and saw weakness. They looked at our short lives and saw fragility. They were measuring the wrong things. Our strength was never in our muscles or our claws. She touched her chest, right above her heart. Our strength is here, in our minds, in our souls, in the part of us that says, I will not quit when every logical reason says we should. We are the species that hunted mammoths by walking after them until they dropped. That is what we are. That is what you face. She straightened her shoulders. So here is humanity's promise to the galaxy. We come in peace. We genuinely do. We will be fair traders and honest allies and good neighbors. But if you force us to war, you will learn why no predator on Earth ever succeeded in making us prey. She smiled that same cold, dangerous smile she had shown Al 3 months before. We will walk after you until the stars grow cold. She turned and nodded to the representative. Earth formally requests full membership in the Galactic Council. The vote was unanimous. Every species, even those who had once supported voted to accept humanity. As the session ended and representatives began to leave, the ancient ambassador approached. His silver form moved slowly, like a tree swaying in a gentle wind. He had lived for 50,000 years and had observed more species than he could count. Ambassador, he said, may I speak with you? Of course. The old being studied her with eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. In all my years I have observed many species. Some were powerful, some were intelligent, some were peaceful, some were aggressive. I thought I had seen every variation that life could produce. He paused. I was wrong. Your species is something new. Your biology suggests prey. Your psychology suggests predator. Your history suggests something else entirely. What does it suggest? Asked. There was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his translator struggled to find the right word, finally settling on a human term. Unstoppable, you are not the strongest species. You are not the or the fastest or the most numerous, but you are unstoppable. You simply do not know how to give up. Thought about the soldiers who had died on New Helsinki. She thought about Colonel Stone, still recovering from wounds that would have killed anyone less stubborn. She thought about pressing that button rather than surrender. No, she said quietly, we don't. They nodded slowly. The galaxy will learn to respect humanity. Some will learn through friendship, others will learn through fear, but all will learn. He turned to leave, then stopped. Ambassador, one final observation. The thought they were teaching humanity a lesson about weakness. Instead, humanity taught the galaxy a lesson about strength. I suspect this will not be the last time such a lesson is needed. Watched him go, then she looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were going about their daily lives, unaware of the fear they had just inspired in an entire galaxy. They were farming and building and raising children, doing all the ordinary things that humans had done for thousands of years. But if anyone ever threatened them again, the wolves would wake, and the galaxy would remember why humans were never prey.